Hello and welcome to Gold and Silver Assets. I'm Diora and it's Sunday the 30th of May 2021. Today we shall discuss the topic of fake gold. What is fake gold? And is it only used for nefarious purposes or can it be useful to us? Well, when we're talking about physical gold, then most standards around the world would actually identify anything less than 10 carats as being fake gold. That seems rather surprising given that it still contains over 40% gold. Fake gold comes in numerous forms and it usually has a gold content way less than 40%. If the piece is marked honestly, then one of the following markings would be present, and this is usually in reference to jewellery. Gold-filled jewellery is made by pressure bonding a layer of gold to another metal, such as brass, and legally gold-filled jewellery must contain at least 5% gold by weight. Gold-plated jewellery is usually silver or copper coated with a very thin layer of gold. Fake bullion bars or coins are usually gold-plated tungsten. Now note that the purity of the plating itself can also vary between 10 and 24 carats. The thickness of the plating can vary. So the cheapest would be 0.2 microns. That's about a third of the thickness of an average human hair. And so that's liable to rubbing off just with normal wear. So most jewellery is actually a little bit thicker plating. And so it's usually about 0.5 to 1 microns thick. And you can also get heavy gold plating, which is 2.5 microns thick. How can you tell if your gold is real gold? Well, there are quite a few ways of testing it. One is to use a strong magnet. Definitely don't use an old, weak magnet as you're going to get misleading results. Gold should not at all be magnetic. And the problem is, though, tungsten is only weakly magnetic and so can falsely pass this test. A great old-fashioned one is the bite test, and you often see, those gold medalists at the Olympics biting their medals during those photo shoots, but that's actually just a gimmick, and that's basically just for the cameras, because the last time any Olympic medals were made of real gold was 1912, so those were solid gold at that time. Pure gold is softer than most metals, and only the liquid metals, such as lead, tin and zinc, are softer. So if you bite into a solid gold coin, it would leave a tooth mark. Now, that wouldn't be the case if you bit into a gold-coated tungsten coin or bar. Now, of course, this type of test is far from ideal. It's not hygienic for a start, but also it damages the metal and will reduce the resale value. Unless, of course, you're a celebrity, in which case it would probably increase the value. The other thing you can do is rub gold onto an unglazed ceramic tile or even a stone, and it should leave a yellow streak like shown in the image over here. However, this test isn't useful for thick-plated or gold-filled pieces because it's still going to have gold on the surface there. The acid test is the most common method used by jewellers and pawnbrokers. So acid test kits contain 4 different concentrations of nitric acid to test for the different carats of gold. And the test basically involves scraping the gold onto a stone and then applying the acid to the mark. And if it's pure gold, it's not going to react to the acid at all. The weight and density are also useful parameters to measure. So a pure gold 1 ounce coin should weigh 1 ounces or 31.1 grams. But remember, if it's 22 karat gold, for example, the American Eagle or the British Sovereign, then even though it says 1 ounce on the face of the coin, it must weigh more than 1 ounce. So Usually it should weigh 33.9 grams to be specific. And that's because of the additional silver and copper that's in it. So if you see a gold eagle that weighs 1 ounce, be very, very suspicious. The other thing is that gold is a very dense metal. It's denser than lead, but it isn't the most dense metal in the world. That prize goes to osmium. Gold sits between tungsten and uranium, of all things, and that's why tungsten is commonly used in fake gold. There are also high-tech ways of testing gold. You can send electromagnetic waves through the piece to assess the resistance of the metal. You can pass X-rays through the gold to excite the atoms into a higher energy state, and when they return to the normal states, they give off radiation, which can then be analysed. An alternative method is ultrasound, and so here sound waves are passed through the object, and if there's a tungsten core, that would reflect the sound waves back prematurely. As we know, gold has a unique colour and shininess, and so it's worth getting to know what pure gold looks like in real life. The addition of other metals such as copper or silver will change that tone. For example, copper will add a kind of reddish tone to it. If you see any focal areas of discoloration, then that's a warning sign. Pure gold is inert and doesn't tarnish or oxidise. The other thing to look for is how well made the pieces and the markings on it. So for coins and minted bars, look out for things like spelling mistakes or missing marks, a poor quality of striking, or incorrect dimensions. Whenever we hear about fake gold, it usually relates to criminal shenanigans, and there are loads of stories out there about scams involving fake gold. So the most recent one is a high-profile story from a company called the Wuhan King Gold Jewelry Inc. That's in China. And this was actually the largest privately owned gold processor in the province. And it was even listed on the Nasdaq stock exchange, so it was a pretty big fish. Over the time, the company had taken out $2.8 billion worth of loans, and they used 83 tons of pure gold as collateral for their loans. Also, it was covered by insurance. Well, in 2019, the company failed to make a loan repayment, and so that lender tried to liquidate the gold, and it was at that point it was discovered that the bars were actually gilded copper alloys. Ouch! Fake gold scams also affect people on the retail level. There are online scams, you hear stories of parking lot scams, and a big red flag to look out for is when someone offers you gold at below the spot price. That's highly suspicious. Now, fakery in gold is not always hidden away. Here are some examples of gold bars for sale that openly admit that they're fakes, and the price also kind of tells you that as well. Here are some fake US coins, and you can see here on this Liberty that the quality of the strike is actually pretty poor. And this is a good one over here. You can see that this is marked with a face value of $1 trillion. So why are openly fake gold coins and bars being sold so cheaply? How can we use them for non-nefarious means? Well, one common use is as decoy gold. If it gets nicked, you'll have got one over on the bad guys. The really light fakes, actually these are made of plastic, they can be used as fridge magnets, and I actually have one of these on my fridge. Those heavy gilded tungsten bars also make great doorstops. Also, instead of pumping boring old iron, why not pump gold to build your physique? And another way in which gold is not gold is when it's paper gold. Now, I know that this can be quite controversial, but for me, I don't believe that things like unallocated ETFs, options, or futures contracts truly represent physical gold ownership. But that doesn't mean that they don't have their uses. They provide convenience, particularly for short-term traders, and although fees are charged, they do avoid the premiums and the inconvenience of arranging and paying for storage. Paper gold products are also useful as a hedging tool, and they also offer the option of leverage. In conclusion, when gold prices increase, more and more fake gold products are likely to come out of the woodwork. It's therefore crucial to minimise your risks by going to a reputable dealer. Also, having a sound level of knowledge about the product that you're buying does help. But rather than go all doom and gloom, I did want to put a positive spin on this topic and show you that fake gold can also be useful to you. Next up, the market update. Let's start with gold price in US dollars on the monthly scale. And this is a lovely candle here. Look at that. Nice long green candle. Let's hope that keeps going. But yeah, I think that's looking rather positive for now. And let's look more closely at gold in US dollars on the daily scale. And I've drawn this curve. It's quite subjective. I think if you were to draw the same curve, you'll get a slightly different result. It's not easy to draw these things, but I just kind of put it in anyway just to see. And interestingly, prices just kind of hung around over in this area. And you'll notice that this last block came down, tested that curve line and popped straight back up again. I thought that was quite interesting. Let's see if that continues. Now, look, I don't expect this curve to kind of hold longer term, but for now, I think at least until we get to that 1950, 1960 level, I think this has potential here. So if this does hold, then we would expect price to move up. But yeah, as I said, 1950 to 1960 is going to be a problem there. We're gonna come across some hurdles there. If I'm wrong and this trend line does break, then I think this is going to be our maximum downside, is this trend line over here. So we're looking at about 1840, 1850 at the most. Let's have a look at silver. So this is silver on the monthly scale. And this gives us a nice zoomed out view of where we are. And price is consolidating. It's been consolidating for quite some time here. But again, we've got a lovely green candle over here. In fact, we had two in a row. And the reason that we've got this consolidation at this point relates to all this price action here. That really does give us a big clue about that. And it also will help us going forwards. And so the next kind of areas of entanglement are going to be at $30 and then $35. Above that, we've got quite a lot of thin air, basically. So we've still got to negotiate all this, and it's going to take some time. What about if we zoom in? So this is silver priced in US dollars on the daily scale. And we've drawn this upsloping trend line here. And price has basically been moving sideways for the last 2-3 weeks now. And basically we're just waiting for price to hop up into this next phase between 28 and 30. And yeah, it's just going to take a bit of patience here. This is almost looking like a little bit of a kind of triangle here. So maybe once we get up above this level here, that's when we're going to start seeing some fireworks there. Let's look at the gold miners. So this is the GDX on the daily scale. Again, looking pretty good. You know, no major drops in this. This has actually been performing quite well. And we were wondering last week whether this was forming a kind of flag, and that could still be the case. In which case, we're probably going to be hanging around here still for a little while before we move up. What's our downside here? I'm thinking about 37 max, and again that's just that by drawing this trend line here, but it might not even get there, to be honest. It might just continue more upwards because I think this whole thing is quite bullish. And finally we've got the silver miners. So this is the SILJ, and this time I've done it on the weekly scale, and we've been watching this upper trend line like a hawk. And previously on 2 occasions that trend line was rapidly rejected. You can see here there was just one candle touching it and it just bang went straight down, and that happened even a few years before that as well if you zoom back. But here something different is happening. You can see it's hanging around there, and this consolidation is basically, I think, forming a base, and we're right on that line, so we are on the cusp of something here, I think. And once we get above that line, I think this sausage here is going to start a sizzling. Yeah, I think this is going to be good up here, and we're not far off. Okay, now this might hang around here a little bit longer. It's hard to know how long this stuff is going to last. I mean, this took a lot longer than most of us expected, but I think this is showing strength, and it's not going to be long before those silver junior miners really get cooking. Now I'm going to end with a heartwarming story that relates back to our discussion about fake stuff. So this is a painting by Cézanne in 1894. Now back in 1999 it was actually sold at auction for $60 million US. Now I really love this painting, but that kind of price is way out of my budget, I'm afraid. And look, you can get prints of this, they're available, but I actually wanted this painting on canvas. So what's the solution here? Well, you know me, I like to have a go at things, and I thought, look, why not paint my own version? What's the worst that can happen? It could come out a mess, in which case I'll have just wasted some paint and some time. But the upside is that if it came out nicely, then I would have honed my artistic skills and I'd have a nice painting on the wall. To me, that sounds like a good level of asymmetry to me. So I got out my paints and brushes and got going on that project in my spare time. Do you want to know how it turned out? Well, here's the final result that's hanging proudly on my kitchen wall. Look, I know it's not identical to the original. I'm not a master professional artist in any way, but it's just my interpretation of that painting. And I'm very pleased with the result, and I learned a lot by doing it. So here we have it, a genuine fake original by me. So that just goes to show, not all fakes are bad or nefarious in nature. Some can bring joy. Well, if you like this show, give us a like. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next week. All the best. Bye.